It has been a long time coming, man, but we are back on the Ultimate 216 show. Good morning. Y'all know the vibes. If you woke up, you already won. It's your boy Earl of Pearl. That's Cecil Shorts. And we bringing you a live Ultimate 216 show to get things back off and running. It's been well over a month since we got the opportunity to record, man. But God is good. I am thankful to be back, brother. It's really, really, really good to lay eyes on you. I hope you and the family is doing well this morning.
Man, we good, brother. I'm just happy to be back with you, man. It's such a blessing to be in front of you, and I can't wait to be there in person. We were talking off air in April to do some things with you and the team, but man, it's good to see you back in action and just know, like, we're praying for you, man. We truly love you and we're praying for you, big dog. You and your brother.
For sure, for sure. So this is the final stop on the welcome back tour. So the first episode of the Ultimate 216 show since my mother's passing is dedicated to you, mama. Let's get into it. So news broke this morning that Myles Garrett requested a meeting with the owner, Jimmy Haslam. Jimmy declined to speak to Myles, basically sent him to Andrew Berry, said, if you got anything that you need to talk about, want to talk about, you got to holler at AB. So Tom Pelissero, I believe it was, broke the news this morning, and they talked about it earlier today on NFL Network. What we're going to do is we're going to play the clip for you to kind of like set the situation up, and we'll come back and react to it. So this is what they talked about this morning about Myles Garrett being denied the request to meet with the owner, Jimmy Haslam.
Let's bring up Tom Pelissero's post on X here and run through the news here and provide the context for what is happening. Myles Garrett, we know he wants a trade. He's made that clear. Not about money. It's about playing for a competitive team. Does not feel right now the Browns are in that situation. The Browns have made it clear publicly, privately, we are not trading this guy. He is not going anywhere. Andrew Berry telling me at the Combine, a future in which Myles Garrett is not playing for the Browns. That's not a future that we want to be in. So here's what happened. Garrett reached out to Jimmy Haslam, requested a meeting with the owner, according to Tom Pelissero's sources, and Haslam said no. Now, my understanding is the reason that Haslam said no here is we know what the issues are. We know about the communication between your agent and Andrew Berry, our general manager, and our organization, the communication both sides. You need to go to Andrew Berry on this. And Haslam does, full trust in Berry to handle this situation, and basically redirected Garrett and his agent to Berry in this situation, saying, you're not going to go around the general manager and come to me to get this thing done. So this one is going to be a standoff. That's going to take a while. We've been saying that from the beginning. This is something that could last through the spring, into the summer, perhaps into the regular season. We'll see where it goes. But the Browns have made it clear they're not interested in trading Myles Garrett. They're not interested in having conversations about trading Myles Garrett with other teams. And Jimmy Haslam's not interested in having a conversation with Garrett about the situation that doesn't include the general manager, Andrew Berry. So that's where we stand. This continues to unfold, Jamie.
Audio, video, courtesy of the NFL Network. What is your initial thoughts when you seen that and heard that news this morning?
I was surprised because that's not the relationship that you want to be put out there. That's not what you want as an owner of an organization, a business, a team, that you want to be put out there and no light, right? Even if you bring him in for the meeting and say those exact words that Tom just said, you meet with him, you talk with him, you build that relationship with him. I'm listening to sports radio in Houston earlier yesterday, and Cleveland is the laughing stock of what's going on in the NFL right now. The Browns are the laughing stock of what's going on in the NFL, and stuff like this is not helping that cause. So for me, even just bringing him in, is nothing wrong with it. Bring him in and talk about it, whatever the case may be. If it's about money, if it's about trade, if it's about whatever, bring him in. If you want to, bring Andrew Berry in as well. And then you have a man-to-man conversation. But don't just shove it off, even if it was in kind words on the phone. Hey, please go meet with Berry. No, bring him in, face-to-face, lay eyes on him, have that man-to-man conversation, and then move on. But you not doing that and putting it out there, and it's all out in social media and the media world, it just looks terrible, man. It looks terrible. And I'll be honest with you. I think I said this in the text with you. I think you should trade Myles. I'm on the trade, get Myles out of town bandwagon, right? But this is not how you handle things. He's been nothing but good to the city and the organization. A meeting is not hard to do.
No, a meeting is not hard to do. You know, the Cleveland Browns got a serious culture problem. And at the head of that culture problem is the owner, Jimmy Haslam, right? Because it's almost like, man, a poisonous snake is infectious from the head all the way down. And this is a guy that continuously to drop the ball when it comes to relationships as it pertains to the players. Now, the Cleveland Browns report card came out last week, and there was a lot to be said about, you know, the owner's seriousness of when it comes to winning. It talked a lot about how the families was treated. It talked a lot about the things that the point I'm making is the grades that the Browns got the lowest grades on. It seemed like things that pointed to culture and relationships not really having solid foundation. And when you are dealing with your overall best player, one of the NFL's overall best players, and you won't even meet with the man, you're not doing anything to help your own cause. And if the goal was to get Myles Garrett to stay in this relationship, then you're doing more damage because you're acting out of emotion versus just sitting down and having a conversation with the man. And the fact that he was wanting to or requesting to have a conversation with the owner, it says that he was willing to do whatever it is it took to try to see if we can mend fences and move forward. Now, in the beginning, I was not on the side of, you know what, the Cleveland Browns should trade Myles Garrett. But as time moves on and we get, you know, more and more removed away from the original trade request, I don't know, bro. This just seems like it's a messy, toxic situation. It seemed like it's getting ugly, like one of the comments said. And I'll much rather move on to get as much as I can for Myles right now and to keep dealing with this unnecessary drama, because you're right. The Cleveland Browns are the laughing stock of the NFL right now. And it's because of lack of culture and lack of seriousness of the relationships that we have with the players, the owners, and everybody else in that building.
Bro, the players see this. Like everybody in the organization, the players, they feel this. People around the NFL, they see this. Other players are watching how they're handling this situation. Why would another player want to come here when you won't even meet with your best player on your team? And the relationship, the report card you mentioned, that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. So for me, and this is going back to that Myles trade situation. If I'm Myles, I understand why you want to go, right? I don't think as an organization you have to do quote unquote right by him and trade him to a contender. I think the best thing you could do, for speaking of the Cleveland Browns, is find the highest bidder who's going to give me the most draft picks, the most capital for Myles Garrett, and let him go. That's the only way you'll be able to get back what you lost from the Deshaun Watson trade. That's the only way you'll be able to get back. We talked about it earlier. That's the only way you'll get back from being kind of going in the right direction and give the fans in the city some hope. That's the only way. Get as much capital as you can. Otherwise, it's going to get messy, like you mentioned. He seems like he's dug in. If I'm a player, if I'm Myles, in my head, I'm like, you won't even meet with me. I've done everything in the community. I'm the best player in the league in my position, maybe on the defense, maybe top 5 in the entire league of all players. One of the best players that ever plays position ever. I'm a walking Hall of Famer, and you won't even meet with me? Like, that's beyond me right now. Like, that's literally beyond me. If you want to keep this, you talked about the culture, Earl. You talked about the culture. If you want to build the correct culture, if you want to create the scene of the Cleveland Browns in a positive light, you don't do stuff like this. There's no reason you shouldn't have met with him and just had lunch. Take him out for coffee. Give him a matcha. That's what's popular now. Go give him a green matcha or something. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to communicate with your best player. You're failing. You're failing at the relationship business, which is the number one thing when it comes to player and owner relationships, or player coach, player GM, anything of that nature.
Now, we talk about in real life how important relationships are and value in relationships in real life, right? Because, I mean, if you look in real time of the things that I just went through, man, you value those relationships because you never know how abruptly those things can be altered. And I think it's the same thing in sports, especially a sport like football, who you've played at the highest level. So tell me if I'm out of line in saying what I'm about to say. I think it's necessary to make sure that those relationships is valued to the highest priority, because you are paying men millions of dollars to go out there to hopefully chase the common goal of winning the Super Bowl. And in order for that to happen, everybody needs to be on the same page, moving in the same direction. Like, you can speak to it more than I can, but I don't think people understand the magnitude of having all 11 players on the field being on the same page just to execute one play properly.
Mm.
So imagine what it's going to take to go out there and to win a Super Bowl and having everybody on the same page. This is an organization that's from the very top on down. Nobody seems to be on the same page. I think we what's the word I'm looking for? I think we over identified or wrongly identified what type of owner Jimmy Haslam was. I know me, for one, used to say things like, well, he spends money and he puts people in the right position. So to me, he's a good owner. But there, and the reality is, like, you might spend all the money in the world, man, but it's reckless spending. Like you're outputting all these resources and you don't even know exactly where you're outputting them at, and the return on investment is little to none. This is a mediocre franchise, a mediocre organization, and it seems like for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been good enough not to be called god awful. And that's not what we are looking forward to as fans. That's not what we would deserve as fans of this football team. And it's unfortunate because when you talk about the owner in particular acting this way, it doesn't give a beacon of hope for things turning around in the future.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. Like, you have to. I think if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, if you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, if you look at the Los Angeles Rams or whoever is in contention for the Super Bowl every single year, they're aligned from top to bottom. The owner, the GM, the head coach, the OC, the DC, the position coaches, the strength trainers, the athletic trainers. Like, everybody is in a line. If you're not in line, you're out of there. Period. And it's just chaos right now in the Cleveland Browns building. It's chaos. It's more talk about the stadium that's potentially about to happen than actually what's going on inside the building. They care more about that than talking to Myles Garrett. They care more about that than figuring out how to make this roster better. And it's so frustrating because you're in cap hell right now. It's just like all the news that's coming out, whether you're reconstructing Deshaun Watson contract, nobody wants. That's not good news. That's negative. Because he's not playing. He played 19 games his entire Browns career.
It's like you cleared up 36 million to do what with it?
To do what? Like, to do what with it? To do what with it, right? It's just frustrating. Now this Myles stuff. Myles has already been on his spree. Combine, talking about how much he wants to get out and wants to get traded and not coming in. Then this comes out. There's just so much negative talk when it shouldn't be this way. It should be some type of excitement about having the number 2 pick, about how we're going to try to get back on path. You were in the playoffs this 2 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. I was on the Ultimate Cleveland show when y'all were getting on me because I picked the Houston Texans to beat the Cleveland Browns. It wasn't that in the playoff game. It wasn't that long ago. And then last year happens. And then now it's nothing but negative news. It's the culture, man. You have to fix it from top on down to be on the exact same page, like you said. It just has to be fixed. If not, it's going to be hell.
Speaking of culture, man, as we spend the next few minutes on this next topic, we're going to talk about one Shadeur Sanders and, if the Browns was to fit him, how he would fit into this culture. And I know you had some thoughts on some of the things you've been hearing lately about Shadeur, but this is a good time to let you all know that coming up at 11 o'clock a.m. this morning, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show flagship show will be live on YouTube from 11 a.m. to 12:30. Don't forget, we appear live also on Channel 3 here in Cleveland, Ohio from 12:30 to 1 p.m. So make sure you check that out starting at 11 o'clock. So when I was away, bro, you text me and seen an interview from one of the guys that was on our show a couple of days ago. And you really, really didn't like, the narrative of how he was painting Shadeur Sanders. And I think that has been a major talking point nationally for a while. This is a young man that's being critiqued, being called arrogant, a lot of negative things being said about him. What's your thought process on some of these things?
I think it's bogus. I think it's outlandish. I think they're trying to find a way to get at Shadeur because they don't necessarily appreciate or like or what Mr. Sanders, Deion Primetime is doing, right? What he did in college football changed the whole landscape of college football. What he did at Colorado last couple of years changed everything, and people don't like that. And I think they're trying to find a way to get back at him through Shadeur. That's just my humble opinion, right? Because if you look at Shadeur's game, yes, there is a lot of, how do I put this? There's a lot of intermediate to short passes that people would say, right? but they're accurate. 74%. Like, you're talking about a guy that's 70% from where from delivering the ball to his guys. He's accurate. He's awesome in the pocket. He stands in the pocket and delivers the tough throws under pressure over and over and over again against an offensive line that was one of the worst offensive line in college football the last 2 or 3 years. Yet we find every single reason, over 4,000 yards passing, over 40 touchdowns, and you're finding every single reason, oh, his arm is not elite. I can name Josh Rosen. He had an elite arm. He was awesome at everything he did in college. And what did he do in the NFL? Not a damn thing. So don't give me this. What's happening right now, this was aggravating. What's happening is everybody's focused on the combine, the traits, the arm strength, the size, the competitive. Like, his film doesn't lie. All these guys, their resume is not in shorts and t-shirt. None of them. Cam Ward, none of them. It's not in shorts and t-shirt. It's what you do on film against a live defense, against a live opponent. The fact that Cam and Shadeur didn't throw in the combine against shorts and t-shirt against nobody, no defense going on, against receivers they don't know, why is that being held against them? It's stupid. So you're holding Shadeur to this standard. Let me make this point. Joe Burrow, what's the difference between Joe Burrow and Shadeur Sanders as far as their nature, their confidence, their cockiness? It's nothing. Baker Mayfield, Shadeur Sanders, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Hey, the coach in Tennessee said that Shadeur Sanders and Joe Burrow kind of reminds him of each other a lot.
It's the same thing. Who doesn't want a confident quarterback? I don't want no guy doubting himself. I don't want no guy that's not secure in who he is. The only issue with Shadeur is his daddy is Deion. They never experienced that before. They don't know how to go about that. How do I handle a guy that's a little more flashy than him? How do I handle a guy that has an aura about him? How do I handle a guy? They can't control that. So they're fearful. They're fearful of somebody different coming in the league like that. That's my humble opinion. Because Shadeur, to me, cerebral, and he's not going to have the height, the weight, the arm strength, like I said. But to me, it's what's up here. He understands the game at an extremely high level, and he gets the ball out quickly. It's not about how far you can throw the ball. Tom Brady couldn't throw the ball far, but he got the ball out quick. He got the ball out extremely well. He knew what the defense was going to do before he got there. So it's not about your traits. It's about how do you play the game and how do you process things. That's my biggest thing with Shadeur.
Yeah, I think he's being unfairly criticized. I think confidence sometimes can be misconstrued for arrogance, right? When you're dealing with people who might not have the same amount of self-confidence as you do. I don't think it's nothing wrong whatsoever with speaking positive affirmations over your life, over your career, over your profession, etc. Right? Like, you can't say that life and death is in the power of the tongue and then kind of be mad at somebody for speaking positively outside of their mouth. Like, that don't add up. And this is a dude who understands that, it's not only just the words, but you got to put actions behind it. And I've seen so many different interviews with Shadeur over the last couple of days, and he talks himself about not being a finished product. He talks himself about understanding that he still has a long way to go and a lot to learn before he can become a complete player in the NFL. So to me, that doesn't scream arrogance at all. That screams a young man that's humble and understands the humility side of things. So, like, yeah, I got enough belief in what my own ability is and what I'm capable of. But I'm also smart enough to know that I ain't done nothing yet at this level. And in order for me to even have a little bit of success, I'm going to have to put in a certain amount of work in order for that to be the case, man. So I just really wanted to touch on that. We ain't really got too much time left, but I would just tell people, man, get off Shadeur back. Like, Shadeur ain't did nothing to nobody. And at the end of the day, I think all we want in the city of Cleveland is somebody to come in here, whether it be Shadeur, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Will Howard, whoever. We just want somebody to come to Cleveland and play a role and help turning this franchise around and putting some wins on the board. And if Shadeur Sanders is confident that he can come to Cleveland and be a part of the success and be a part of the turnaround, I think when and if he gets here, all this noise that, that's outside of the building, we won't have too much to say about that. But I would just tell people, stop knocking this man because he's confident in his own ability and he's willing to speak out loud about it. Like, just because his confidence is on a level that yours might not be on, you can't take unnecessary shots at him just because y'all not on the same level. Like, it don't cost nothing to like just be nice and spread love to people. Like, all this is ignorant, and I think it's a little bit unnecessary and totally uncalled for. We got a couple more things to get to before we close out. We only got 5 minutes, man. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about the trap game, right? The Cavaliers, man, they take on the Charlotte Hornets later on tonight, and 17-point favorites. But these are teams that, if you're not careful, you could look up and find yourself with an L at the end of the night. Kenny Atkinson has talked about, the Cavaliers playing up to certain opponents that's on their level, but making sure that you keep the same intensity and the same level of respect for your opponent when you playing a young team that's got a lot of young guys that's looking to prove themselves. So what's the number one thing the Cleveland Cavaliers need to do to avoid a trap game tonight against the Charlotte Hornets?
Man, just play their style. Like, I've been frustrated watching the Cavs. I know everybody's like, oh, they came back 3 straight times, but they've been down. The comebacks, to me, you're down so many points. I'm like, why? Why are we getting to this now? They fought back and they look outstanding. But I still think they need to be continue to show your toughness, continue to be able to take over when it's needed. Hunter is just amazing to me. He made me forget about who we traded him for. Like, he has been outstanding. Love him at the 4. When you can play a little small ball, he can defend, and then on the offensive side of the ball, he can come down the court. He can be your stretch 4. He can still make moves. So I love what I see from Hunter. Just continue to be yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. Continue to be physical, show that toughness, because you're going to need that come playoff time. When you play the Knicks, when you play the Celtics, when you play these teams, you're going to need to be able to rebound, play defense, and play that tough style of basketball. But it's easy to get caught up, like you mentioned, your 17-point favorites against a young LaMelo and Mark Williams and those guys who can at times put up a lot of points. It's easy to get caught up in, they're not that good. Just go out there, play your game, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. Go out there, play Cavaliers basketball, execute the play, and everything should be cool. The main goal is to push this 12-game winning streak to 13. 2 more minutes. Last thing I wanted to talk about. Everybody know by now, LeBron James checked Stephen A. Smith last night. Say, hey, man, keep my son name out of your mouth. We have no audio, but this is the video that's circulating all over social media right now. He was like, hey, man, keep my son up out of it. He was dead serious, stood on business, and walked away. Stephen A. Smith responded earlier this morning on First Take. I seen it. He says, he felt like LeBron James came to him as somebody that was a father, not an NBA superstar. And Stephen A. basically said, he doesn't get into any of these athletes' personal lives or their personal endeavors. But if there's anything that has to do with on the court that's out there for public opinion, he has an obligation and the job to speak on it. We got about 60 seconds. I guess I want to know your thoughts on that before we close.
I agree with Stephen A. Like, the only reason we're talking about Bronny James is because of LeBron. Like, he's got drafted because of you. He's the reason he's on the team. He's the reason he's in the league. So on the court, he's allowed to be talked about. He's allowed to be criticized. The best thing that Bronny and Bron can do is go in that lab and get better. You don't want to average 0, 0, 0, and 0, like Stephen A. was saying. Go in the lab and get better, and he will. He will. But I don't think Stephen A. was out of pocket for saying anything. That was his opinion. He talked about on the court. He didn't mention him as a father or anything like that. So I don't have an issue with Stephen A. I understand where LeBron coming from, but I don't have an issue with what Stephen A. said.
No, I didn't have an issue with what Stephen A. Smith had to say either. I think that emotions is high. LeBron and Stephen A. Smith never really had the best relationship. And it was something that clearly has set on Bron's mind until he's seen him. Any father is going, stand up and defend their child, whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent. But I don't think Stephen A. was out of context for what he said. He didn't disrespect Bronny James. He didn't disrespect LeBron. And it is what it is, man. But I'm going to tell you what else is what it is. Thank you all. We had 314 live viewers for our first show back. We are back rocking and rolling. We will debut a new sponsor for our show next week. Excited about that. So we'll catch you all next Wednesday. And at least for the upcoming future, you can catch us every Wednesday right here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube channel. Remember, like, subscribe, tell a friend. Stay right here. 1050 is when the link opened up for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Until next week, be great, spread love. Remember, being great come with a price. Spreading love is priceless. We out of here. Peace.